I would just say that, it's very important to get inflation back to target. And I know that central bankers in Europe, the United States, and around the world are very focused on that task.
How high are the global recession risks?
Well, our projection is for the global economy to continue to grow. We're not projecting a recession, but we do say that there's significant downside risk, and we need to continue to manage risks and resolve issues.
Well, it is tough, obviously, to talk about the prospects for a global recession coming out of these tightening cycles at central bank without talking about China's contribution. But again, yesterday, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs out of Beijing is essentially dismissing anything that is coming out of the G7. The spokesperson says the G7 is just a small clique that puts the U.S. first, and essentially saying that this body, this grouping, if you will, the G7, here at the finance ministers and central bank governors, as well as the leaders summit that's going to happen in Hiroshima next week, essentially just serves the United States and a small few other nations. So again, China is not represented, obviously. Is a big contributor, obviously, to global growth as the second biggest economy in the world. Back to you guys.
Bloomberg's chief North Asia correspondent Stephen Engel there joining us from Niigata, Japan. And another reminder not to miss that exclusive conversation with Treasury Secretary Yellen from the G7 summit. That conversation, 5:30 p.m. in Sydney, 3:30 p.m. in Hong Kong. This is Bloomberg.
아유.
SoftBank shares under pressure, falling the most since mid-March for a second consecutive day. This is, of course, after posting results showing that Vision Fund lost money again. And Bloomberg's tech reporter Minjung Lee joins us now for more on this. Minjung, so we thought that SoftBank was going to get some support from the tech rebound that we've seen. What happened?
Right. We were kind of hoping maybe there could be a little bit of a profit and some improvement, but unfortunately, there were quite a bit of markdowns again in the private sector. So the Vision Fund remained in losses and capped the year with a fresh record loss of more than 4 trillion yen. It's not totally unexpected, but investors are obviously very disappointed by the results, and maybe because also a lack of any buyback announcements. So we're seeing quite a steep fall in share prices right now.
Did we hear more about the ARM IPO and where they could find new growth? We know that Masa is apparently very excited about the foray into AI.
Right. The ARM IPO is definitely something everybody, including investors, wanted to hear more about. But CFO Goto was very careful in saying that because the IPO preparation is well into progress, he can't really say much about it. And the ARM results, which provide the biggest hint about what could happen, provided mixed results. So investors probably are not very happy about that as well. But that is one topic that will continue to be of the very biggest focus going forward.
Bloomberg tech reporter Min Jun Lee, they're joining us from Tokyo. Take a look at how major indices trading this Friday are faring. We're seeing a little bit of cautious risk appetite at the moment. Of course, still a lot of uncertainties, not least of which is we're still getting through corporate earnings season, but of course also the US debt ceiling debacle is still unresolved with the reports that we are getting that pushback into next week of that planned meeting between President Biden and US House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. This is a picture as we see some pretty solid gains when it comes to the Nikkei 225, up by just about 0.4%. We were just talking about SoftBank as one of the laggards earlier. Pretty mixed though across the rest of the region. Korean stocks are down by just about 0.7%. We're seeing a little bit of muted downside trading in Australia as well, and Kiwi stocks putting on about 0.25%. More to come here on Daybreak Asia. This is Bloomberg.
This is Daybreak Asia. I'm Annabelle Trawlers for the check on markets. We're 30 minutes now into the session for Sydney, Seoul and Tokyo. And so far you can see we're looking fairly range bound. The Kospi, one of the outlines to the downside, but the Nikkei here pushing higher, 0.4% to the upside, and that's to see further earnings continuing to roll through, including from the likes of SoftBank, which has come online and looking a little weaker this morning after it reported further losses in its Vision Fund, down at $2 billion in the 3 months ending March 31. It's a kind of period where a lot of tech stocks picked up steam, but from other asset classes, we're also seeing that gold here eyeing its best gain in around 6 months. A lot of different factors weighing on this. Firstly, you have concerns about a slowing US economy that are coming through, hawkish messaging from Fed officials, the debt ceiling standoff that is ongoing, and concerns around the health of regional banks in the US, and so this is all spurring this demand for haven assets, and so we are seeing currencies looking a little weaker. Meanwhile, bond yields are continuing to just fall a little bit in line really with what we had in the moves in treasuries in the prior session. But again, that was after we saw jobless claims ticking higher in the US, or rather falling the most since 2021. The commodities complex, really the one to watch. You can see that's the copper contract in Shanghai at the top, down nearly 2.8%, but broadly weaker in the likes of steel, aluminium, and other asset classes, or other commodities rather. If you change on now, this is as we see base metals as well, and the Bloomberg Commodity Spot Index really dropping down to its lowest level in around 18 months now. This is partly down to what we're